Доброго дня, шановні колеги.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Today in the UCMC we continue our project Diplomacy Without Borders. Today we have the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ukraine and Austria, Scherba Oleksandr. Thank you, Mr. Scherba, for joining us. First of all, tell us, has Austria reacted to the statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine? Yesterday I had discussions in the parliament and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Austria. I explained how serious the situation is to the leadership of Austria. In an hour we'll have another meeting. Austria, first of all, considers itself to be the presiding country of the OSCE, and they say that our actions will be via presiding in OSCE. You mentioned that Austria suffers because of the sanctions against Russia. Do you believe will Austria continue to support sanctions? I believe yes. Basically, the statistical data do not confirm that the sanctions for Austrian economy are so bad. Yesterday there was a new information published as to the rate of development of the national economy. The GDP has grown in 2016 by 1.5%, which is quite big. There are some dramatic examples when people, in the result of this situation, when they cannot sell their agricultural products to Russia, they went bankrupt, but these are single cases. But in general, Austrian agriculture and Austrian economy got reoriented to other markets. Is Ukraine still discussed in Austrian mass media? Ukraine is still not just in the is in the focus. Maybe that looks different if we look at the list of hashtags of Austrian Twitter. But for people, for experts, for politicians, it's obvious that this war, this situation, is the situation where the future of Europe is decided, and that is why there's no relaxation, there's no feeling that it's gone. Maybe common people do not mention Ukraine as often as 2 years ago, but experts and politicians understand how serious the situation is. On the 4th of December in 2016, there was the second tour of presidential elections where Oleksandr van der Bellen won. What will be his further steps and what consequences this will have for Ukraine? The main positive result of the elections is that the person who won is a pro-European person. Now, all Europe is divided, as I believe. The real division, political division, is not between conservatives, liberals, the rightists or the leftists, but those who are for the European Union and those who are against. In Austria, the person who is for the European Union won, and that's a great thing for Austria and for Europe. What will be further actions of that person? He explained his approaches and his statement to the parliament, which took place during the inauguration on the 26th of January. He says that I'm oriented towards being mentioned every day in newspapers, but I want to give this nation the correct moral direction of development, the correct morality, not forget about moral aspects in every political decision that we make. And if this approach is followed, then that's very good news for Ukraine. Do you believe whether presidency of Austrian SCE will lead to difficulties in Ukrainian diplomacy, because people believe that there's quite a powerful pro-Russian lobby in Austria. Yes, I confirm that there's a powerful pro-Russian lobby, but Austrian presidency is rather a chance for Ukraine than the danger. It's rather a chance than the danger for Ukraine. I believe that Sebastian Kurz, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Austria, a young person which is thinking about tomorrow, about the future, he understands that it is important for him to have a good name in Europe, not in the eyes of Putin, but in the eyes of Europe. Every step of his will be analyzed from this point of view. And I believe in Austria, people understand it, and he understands it, and that gives us a lot of hope. Does Austria feel the strengthening of Russian propaganda? This is quite a difficult question. If you look at propaganda as Russia Today or satellite TV, yes, they are active. They are present in all TV packages. Are they such an important factor? I believe they are less important factor than the understanding that has been developed in Austria during the last 10 years, and that is that Russia was not understood, that Russia was suppressed, oppressed, and humiliated, and now there's a reaction in Russia for all these years of humiliation. This is a false, wrong understanding, but it's there. Whether it's because of Russian propaganda or maybe because of some other circumstances. That is the mentality, Austrian mentality, which is oriented towards the idea of neutrality. It's difficult for me to judge about that. But all these difficulties
but we should not take this just like Russian propaganda. What are the external political relations between Ukraine and Austria? As of now, these external relations are intensive between the ministers, between Mr. Klimkin and Mr. Kurz. During January, Mr. Hitch visited Kiev twice, while Mr. Klimkin in December visited Austria 3 times. And actually, these often visits, they strengthen the political climate. We have hope that now, when the new president is elected, we will strengthen the dialogue at the level of presidents of both countries. Whether Austrian government provides any assistance in rehabilitation of Ukrainian servicemen or children, Austrian government provides assistance in rehabilitation of children, especially from the areas close to contact line from gray zones, etc. And this is done at the level of federal lands, not at the level of federal government. As for rehabilitation of servicemen, this is supported by private companies like or joint stock companies by like Raiffeisen Bank, I think that this is a rather positive area. Austria is very much familiar with the pain experienced by Ukrainian people, and they try to use all the possibilities to help Ukrainian people. Whether you will have a possibility to accept children for rehabilitation this year. Yes, we have scheduled 4 visits of children from Ukraine. There will be Freiburg Federal and of Vienna City. Uh, we will have some pilot project. This is the Austrian initiative. We will try to invite children from 2 sides of the contact line from I'm Pukachov Valentin from UCMC. Your Excellency, I would like to ask a question whether Austria invests to Ukrainian economy first, and the second, whether the trade had extended or strengthened after association agreement. Austria is rather active investor to the Ukrainian economy. I am proud of this figure, and we have Raiffeisen Bank in Ukraine, which is big investor. Uh, uh, Partially part of this investment is there is Unica company, which is the biggest insurance company acting in Ukraine. We have other big investment projects like an enterprise, Euro Fisher, producing winter sports equipment. Then Agrana in Vinnytsia region. By the way, 60% of Ukrainian sausages are produced with the use of Austrian spice from Austrian company. The exact figures how this trade extended after the association agreement, I should frankly say that in 2015 it was sharp decrease in all the trade indicators. Next year we expect to have 20% raise in trade turnover between two countries. I do not have the last figures of investment from the previous year, but I hope we will see some raise. Andrei Mihal Concor, information firm. As far as I now know, the middle-size entrepreneurs make pressure upon Austrian parliament, explaining that the turnover with Russia is dropping. But as far as I know, there is general drop of construction sector in Russia, and maybe it would be useful to explain this to the Austrian local construction material producers. Of course, this is one of those myths which are disseminated by Russia, and there is pro-Russian Liberty Party in the parliament, and they do not bring under question, do not put under question the statement that all the drops and failures in Austrian economy should be geared to sanctions. That's not true, of course. Um, of course, we communicate with those people who listen to such things. Recently, I had very positive meeting with the head of Austrian Agrarian Association, and I explained to him all the figures, and he told me, "You need not convince me because I understand these things quite well. But we have to convince Austrian small farmers who used to get big benefits because of trade with Russia, and now they do not have these benefits, and Russia says that's because of sanctions. Why that's not true? Thank you. And I would like to add about Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. I would like to express my gratitude to your media center. Some of your stories and interviews, they come on time. They are very interesting, and quite often people say that you are very proactive. Thank you very much. It's very useful work. We wish you all possible success. Goodbye.